And my next job, as I said, is to introduce one of our very important speakers of the day, Shakira Martin. She will be known to many of you. She's the current president of the National Union of Students. She is only the second president of the NUS in 95 years of its history to come from the FE sector. She's a proud daughter of South London, I think that's fair to say, and she makes a fantastic speech. She'll be around all day too. Shakira, over to you.
Well, the day has come, you lot. Today's the day. No, that wasn't in my speech. Let me just get back on. So good afternoon and good morning. I'm Shakira Martin, as Michael said, and president of the National Union of Students. Back in December, Joe Johnson said young people should have the resilience and confidence to challenge controversial opinions and take part in open, frank, and rigorous discussion. I can definitely do that. And last November, Sir Michael Barber made it clear that comfortable is just the start of a slippery slope towards complacence and self-satisfaction. He also said, much of most profound learning requires discomfort. Yes, Michael, it does. And then just last month, our new minister, Sam Jima, said that we need a culture that is demanding and disorientating, not an echo chamber. And I'm nothing if not demanding and disorientating when it comes down to representing my students, whether it's in the meeting rooms, in work groups, and even on boards. So I'm really pleased to say, and thank you today for having the platform to speak to you. But as many of you know, I'm a person that often speaks the honesty with integrity, but freely. Because I want to talk about how we can challenge some of the, how the OFS can challenge some of the issues that students and my members have. Today, we have the launch of the new regulatory framework for higher education across England, the result of years of work for many of you in the room here today. I can tell you, I'm really looking forward to seeing what's contained within these pages. Students' unions have been churning away and have looked through thousands of consultation papers, meetings with their institutions, lobbied MPs, lobbied lords, challenged the government and worked hard to make sure their members' voices are heard. The OFS has a focus on outcomes, but you know as well as I that educational outcomes only gets produced in partnership between students and academics in the classroom, right up to student reps and leaders in the boardroom. You know we care about students' representation at all levels of our institutions. You know that we have much to say when it comes down to quality of teaching and what a good education looks like. And you know what we think between the links between the Teaching Excellence Framework and fees. Clue, if you ain't got to know, we don't like it. So today, I want to talk to you about NUS and what NUS, student unions and students would hope to see is contained within these pages of the founding document of our new regulatory body. Many of you know education for me was personal. Education for me was an entry to have a career. Education for me was a means to be able to look after my family. For me, education was Lewisham Southwark College and my students' union. My students' union gave me the confidence to work out what was going on around me. It gave me the ability to ask questions, to challenge authority. It empowered me to make a difference in and amongst my community. And as a movement, we know that power without principles are hollow. But as a movement, we are optimistic, we are pragmatic, we are policy responders, and we are protesters. We are enthusiastic, we are energetic, we are engaged. But the way we engage is important to understand. In particular, we hope students' unions' engagement with the Office of Students in consultation and anywhere else will not only ensure that their voices are heard, but ensure that the millions of voices they represent are heard too. If the Office of Students is to be effective, to protect students' rights and to regulate properly, we must listen to each other. Only then can we start to work on our shared principles and put this into practice. So I've got 3 challenges. Here's challenge 1. As I said, we have some core principles that we share, from improving teaching quality in our universities to ensuring students' protection when course closes, to transforming access to education. But this is where we differ. The Office of Students was established to look at the role of the market within higher education, to look explicitly at the employers, students, and the taxpayers' interests. NUS does not believe that the market is the best way to regulate education, to increase student choice, or to get the best outcomes for taxpayers. Society being made poorer by increasing student debt and the Treasury is no good for no one. But if we don't agree on the market, one thing that we can agree on is that the government needs to protect the students from whatever is at risk of them. In every market, there is a risk. This isn't just rhetoric, it's actually a reality. And this is actually a reality for many of my membership. From London to Leicester to Liverpool, our members are running funds to ensure students can focus on their studies, rather than worrying about homelessness, medical costs, transport to university. In every students' union, you will find a member doing their utmost in their bit to tackle the mental health crisis in higher education. We need to think long and hard about what the market feels like for these students. I mean, have a look at the London School of Economics Student Union website. You can read it yourself. A student stated, and I quote, I've always wanted to say that, sorry. The emergency homelessness and housing fund was my only lifeline for and the assistance of student advisors during the application process. I was awarded some funds to redeem my financial distress. Honestly, I think London School of Economics SU has a keen ear for listening to students and their problems and aims to ensure that students are empowered. Thank you, LSE Students' Union. And that is just a tip of an iceberg of what students' unions do for our members on a daily basis. So without students' unions, our students would drop out, and it's our students' unions that pick them up. A market in higher education means that many will never make it to graduation. Again, this isn't rhetoric. This is a reality for many of my members. And if we anticipate that some providers will close, students' learning will stop too. But even when a course closes or the institution remains, for some students, it's the killer component of a course not being run because the timetable clashes or the tutor isn't there anymore or the academic. This leaves them devastated. This is the difference between them getting in and staying on and graduating. And we don't think that enough is being done to protect students in these circumstances. So, we are hoping today that good news will come for student protections. And we are also hoping that contracts and agreement will cover a full range of transactions between students and providers. Because fees really is just part of the story. My second challenge is about getting on. To not only to consider how we get students into higher education in the first place, but how we help them get on. We agree that the Office of Students, when they say that the market will not help access or widening participation. For us, this is talking more than just about fees, differentiated fees or not, but looking again about who is actually going into higher education in the first place. We need to look seriously and hard at the issues of the black attainment gap, transition from further education to higher education, student poverty, and the support for mature and part-time students. This is the Office of Students, and our students are diverse, from a wide range of backgrounds, undertaking a wide range of courses and learning journeys. They are parents taking up distance learning to build a better future for their children, as I did when I went back to college. They are international students who travelled halfway across the world to be a part of this remaining truly global excellent education system. They are commuting students, studying higher education within a further education college. These issues, the issues that they face and the barriers are diverse and varied too. It's about students who miss seminars and socials and deadlines and dates because mental health services just aren't there. It's about the university student who can't afford rent and the you know what I'm trying to say, student that can't afford their bus fare in. It's about ensuring that we have the safety net to ensure that students don't drop out. Because really, if you don't feel safe in education, where can you? If the Office of Students believes that the market is about driving up standards, it also needs to lay out how we drive up standards in widening participation and more closely tie funding with real action on access. In particular, as offer comes into the OFS, we want to see it's putting its teeth into making real change that supports students not only to step through the door, but to make the most of their time in their studying, to put them in a position where they can get a great job and a career out of it, regardless of their gender, ethnicity, sexuality, or class. Now, I've heard that NUS and student unions have kind of like a bad reputation in number 10, and maybe by the government. Shame, it didn't say number 10, it said the government. I hope that wasn't on purpose. But you know that student unions are experts in fees, funding, and the future of shaping what we want our education and society to look like. Whether you're an Oxford student, whether you're a student at an Oxford college, or a student at a new college in Oxford that has just received degree awarding powers, students rightly expect a high-quality education. But they should be part of shaping their education too. So my third and last challenge is about partnership. Ideally, we want SUs in every provider, but as a minimal, we would like to see student partnerships approach in all institutions on the register of provisions in order to access the loan book and gain degree awarding powers. As I said, we believe that partnership that protects students' rights against closures, properly funded advice and advocacy, and promoting dialogue between the providers and students' union. But partnership goes beyond protection. Dialogue and discussion between students and providers, often challenging, is a part of our character of the UK HE system, and we should be proud and welcoming of that. Through participation in the Office of Students panel and along with the excellent student panel that I'm working alongside, I will be sure to make sure that the Office of Student representation is embedded in every level of higher education. And as NUS President, last year I promised to listen, learn and lead. Now it's up to the Office of Students to do the same thing. So today, I've laid out our movement's challenges for the Office of Students. We need a regulator that champions widening participation, challenges market failures, holds universities to account and commits to supporting independent students' union. There is a change in the air in higher education and I can feel it coming. But the last thing I would like to say is you can start some of this work now. You don't have to wait for the studies or in like the behaviours to start to be able to do the right thing. If you work with students' unions and students' reps on transparency, on protection, on widening access now, we won't have to have it regulated later. I mean, like, sooner rather than later, you know, let's get with it. And as Michael knows, I like asking questions, but the last question I have for the OFS is, are you ready? Because my members are, and I really do hope you are too. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I hope you took something away from today.
Well, colleagues, I'm down on the programme to respond to that, but I'm not going to respond in the way that word implies. I'm going to thank Shakira and just comment on some of those very thoughtful insights First is, I'm very happy to take from Shakira's campaign slogan, listen, learn and lead. So we will adopt that and attribute it accordingly. Secondly, I think the emphasis that Shakira makes on building partnership, which applies obviously at the national level in the way that we're trying to do already through the student panel, through Shakira's presence here and the involvement of other members of the student panel in the event today, but it also applies at institutional level. And I know many universities do a fantastic job of that, but building that partnership to improve the quality of teaching, one of the things that Shakira mentioned about, as well as all the other things that make a difference to students, I think is fundamentally important. I can say wholeheartedly and fully that we will take the challenge on access, participation, progression very, very seriously. Chris Millwood is our DFAP, as he's known, very inspired person taking this agenda very seriously. He'll be running a session later. It's really important. And as Shakira says, this is an area where we can make a difference right now, all of us in different ways. And that's something that should certainly be firmly on the agenda. And on the market question, I think that what we say, actually it's in the regulatory framework, and Nicola and I have said in various comments publicly and speeches, is the market metaphor only gets you so far. It's not irrelevant, it's helpful in some ways, in my view, but we all know that learning isn't purely a market transaction. We all know that the interaction between a student and a university or student and a particular course or faculty or whatever is not purely a market transaction. It's a partnership about developing learning, developing people, inspiration, all those other things. And we will never lose sight of that perspective either. Shakira, thank you very much for being with us. Thank you for your wonderful contribution. Look forward to the dialogue, and I promise you we will be in continuous dialogue. And sometimes we probably will make each other feel a bit uncomfortable, but that's the nature of learning. Thank you very much. Can we thank Shakira again?